All right. Stand Firm, episode 87. I think that's right.
Yep.
This is the Stand Firm podcast. I am Quintin.
I'm Wyatt.
This is the podcast where two real Christians get together, have honest conversations, and discover hard truth.
Yes.
We are back. Genesis chapter 21. We just went through chapter 20 and spoke about Abraham lying once again about his wife Sarah being his sister.
Yep. Old habits die hard.
That they do. So that's what we talked about last week. This week, again, we're moving on to the birth of their dear boy, Isaac.
Big character happening.
Yep.
I wouldn't say that this is the transition, but coming up really soon. I would say, honestly, just because I'm looking ahead, I'd say probably 23 would be probably the transition between following Abraham and following Isaac.
Sure.
Right? So, yeah, it's just it's a great time to see Isaac come on the scene, and the next chapter being, you know, kind of one of the most famous ones that everybody always points to is, you know, Abraham being tested with Isaac.
Yep.
So,
yeah. Dude, I can't believe, like, when we started this Genesis series, I don't know if we really realized how long we'd be on this thing.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, this is a year plus that we're going to be on this Genesis, which is great. I mean, I've enjoyed it. We've mixed in other stuff. But
there's a lot of chapters.
Daggum.
We need to start Ezekiel next. Like 65, I think.
Yeah,
62.
we need to maybe take a break from the long book series after this one when we wrap up in
Jonah.
wrap up in like May. Dude, yeah, but no, with how many just chapters there is and the pace we're at, it's over a year-long series. It's kind of wild. But anywho, also wanted to say real quick, meant to mention it last week, but didn't. The YouTube, our podcast in general has really popped recently, which is awesome. You know, we've got some new subscribers. We've got some Canucks on the page now, some Canadians. We're like mainly 18 to like 34-year-old males from the United States, but we've got a few Canadians.
That's right.
Like 2 women. Not really, I don't know how many, but a very, very small percentage. But it's really cool. We have, from the last time we really sat down and recorded some of these episodes, we weren't even looking at 1,000 views total on the page. And now we've got over 10,000 views on the page. We've got 10-plus subscribers from it, which I know aren't crazy metrics to most people, but to us, it's awesome.
Yeah. And
it's super cool to continue to grow our base. You know, this is great. When we started this, was like, we just kind of want to reach a bunch of people. And so now to see that tens of thousands of people are seeing at least our little short clips of us talking about stuff, super cool. So glad that there's people here actually watching and paying attention. So,
that's right.
All right. Let's jump into chapter 21.
All right. Read it for us.
Gotcha. All right. The Lord came to Sarah, as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age at the appointed time God had told him. Abraham named his son who was born to him the one Sarah bore to him, Isaac. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him as God had commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said, "God has made me laugh, and everyone who hears will laugh with me." She also said, "Who would have told Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne a son for him in his old age." The child grew and was weaned, and Abraham held a great feast on the day Isaac was weaned. But Sarah saw the son mocking the one Hagar, the Egyptian, had borne to Abraham. So she said to Abraham, "Drive out this slave with her son, for the son of this slave will not be a co-heir with my son Isaac." This was very distressing to Abraham because of his son. But God said to Abraham, "Do not be distressed about the boy and about your slave. Whatever Sarah says to you, listen to her, because your offspring will be traced through Isaac. And I will also make a nation of the slave's son, because he is your offspring." Early in the morning, Abraham got up, took bread and a water skin, put them on Hagar's shoulders, and sent her and the boy away. She left and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water in the skin was gone, she left the boy under one of the bushes, and went and sat at a distance, about a bowshot away, for she said, I can't bear to watch the boy die. While she sat at a distance, she wept loudly. God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from the heavens and said to her, What's wrong, Hagar? Don't be afraid, for God has heard the boy crying from the place where he is. Get up, help the boy up, and grasp his hand, for I will make him a great nation. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well. So she went and filled the water skin and gave the boy a drink. God was with the boy. And he grew, he settled in the wilderness and became an archer. He settled in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother got a wife for him from the land of Egypt.
Yeah,
so
that's a lot.
A lot happening there.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of interesting to see, right off the jump, we already were told this in previous chapters, that Ishmael would have a lineage, right? We were already told, and then the Lord kind of reinstates that to Abraham here, when Abraham begins to get worried because Sarah is like, this slave son is not going to be co-heir with my son. Mm-hmm. And so Abram starts to kind of freak out because Ishmael is also Abraham's son. And the Lord says, do not stress about it. Hagar's son will also have a lineage and a line as well.
Yeah.
So Abraham goes and he sends them on their way. Well, then they meet this trial, and then we see the Lord come and and deliver for these two. But it's just kind of an interesting thing to happen, to see them be there, be with Abraham and Sarah, and then Sarah kind of ask Abraham to send them off.
Yeah.
And he does. And then not only does he send them off, but then they're off in the wilderness, and then they meet this trial. And, Ishmael's at a point where he's about to die. It's such an odd thing to happen.
Yeah, really. And I guess that would be very contentious among the family,
right.
Having the other woman who gave him a son be there.
We should remember why the other woman with a son is there.
Yes.
Whose choice was this?
Yep, that was Sarah's
This
and
was
Abraham's.
Sarah's choice.
Mm-hmm.
And Abraham just kind of went along with it. And again, we've already had the discussion, but we've talked about how these decisions made by Abraham
Yep.
That are not done in the Lord's will, they bear heavy consequences every time.
Yeah, and they're a thorn in his side
every
for
time.
years to come.
And they will be.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that, and we saw that even with Lot.
Yeah.
And Lot in the destruction of Sodom, and how he does not act the way, doesn't do the simple things that the Lord asks him to do, and then we find him getting drunk, and we see that situation there in the cave.
Yes.
And so these things that are not done in the Lord's will bear consequences, and they continue to over time. And so this was something that, again, Abraham did outside of the Lord's will. Mm-hmm. They were impatient on the Lord's covenant that he had already made to them.
Yep.
They didn't want to wait. So Sarah said, just go get your slave pregnant. So he does, and so that happens. But now this has continued to be a thorn in their side, as you said.
Yeah.
And Sarah is unhappy with it, and it's like, girl, this is your
this
call.
Is your plan.
So it's just it's funny to continue to see that reoccurring. Here's your poor choice, and we will see it still as we continue through Genesis, and as you mentioned, as we start to follow more Isaac, we'll continue to see that thorn in their side.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a real showing of God's faithfulness and his promise, how he did what he said he was going to do, and human efforts versus human efforts, right? And so, again, like you said, this problem is born from their choices because they tried to outrun God, but also you see God have mercy on Ishmael too, which I think is really, that's just a great characteristic and a great showing of the love of God, that even when humans mess up, even when they try and do things and try and speed up God's plan, it's not like he casts Ishmael aside, saying,
Right.
you weren't supposed to be here.
Yeah.
You're off. You're nothing. So no, he's still going to make a nation out of him as well because of what he promised to Abraham. So
Yeah.
even, again, he promises a son to Abraham. Abraham tries to do it himself, and God still upholds that promise to Abraham, giving him a son, and so the promise to his son, but also the promise to his other son, his more so illegitimate son, as well.
Yeah.
So that's just really interesting and just a great showing of the God we follow.
Sure.
Right?
Well, and you obviously see the Lord's provision. You see his grace there. But you see Abraham's too, by the fact that he got up early, he gave them water, and he kind of sent them on their way. So you see that first. You see his love still reflected. So he still has love for Ishmael and Hagar.
Oh, yeah.
But as Sarah asked him to do, and then the Lord told him to listen to Sarah, he sends them on their way, and they make it about 20 miles. This is what they made. They made about 20 miles. And then, yes, Ishmael about dies, but then the Lord opens up Hagar's eyes, and it's like there's a well nearby, and then we see that grace, like you said.
Yeah.
So, again, it's that continuous provision, like we saw in the past, the previous chapter with Abimelech.
Yeah.
And that...
Just being there through human failures.
Yeah, exactly.
Too. I mean, that's really comforting from a God that,
Yeah.
I mean, you see so often that you have to like work your way to heaven and you have to do everything right and you have to be perfect. But there's a complete counter cultural message of the Bible that we serve a God who worked his way to us, right?
Yep.
And we have a God that provides for us and still has a plan and again, is just, and we still need to do good, but who also has mercy. I think so many other false gods and religions, they just focus on the kind of like the holiness or the divine aspect of their little g God.
Yeah.
But they forget about any kind of mercy and love, right? Which is the God we serve.
Yeah, no, it's like, you see in the, like you're talking about these other religions and things, you see a continuous, like, I gotta earn this, I gotta get this, when for us as Christians, it's like we can't even earn it.
Yeah.
Like we cannot. And where Jesus came and died, because we can't do it.
Yeah.
And so it's a contrast that you see from all other religions and subsects, where we're not trying to like achieve a certain score, or do a certain amount of good things, or maintain a good karma, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It's already recognized that we can't get there.
Yeah.
So that price was already paid for us, which is such a profound. And you see that even in the Old Testament, before that sacrifice is even made, you still see God. You see that characteristic in God still prior to that sacrifice even being made on the cross.
Even in Genesis, this is the thing. How we know that Christ and the way that he proposed was built on truth and built on such a foundation that we see so much evidence of this even through Genesis. I mean, we're not even into the second book of the Old Testament, right? And we're already seeing this much evidence. So it's really incredible to see. I also liked how Sarah laughed again in verse 6.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so she laughed earlier, Genesis 18, right? 18:12. But now the laughter's for joy instead of more like a right,
like criticism.
Yes. And so that's just a constant theme of how God turns despair and hopelessness into joy, right? So it's a really good message. We'll see how the nation that Ishmael turns into be might conflict with the nations that Isaac brings forth.
Continuous thorn.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the latter half of 21 here. At that time, this is verse 22, at that time Abimelech, accompanied by Phicol, the commander of his army, said to Abraham, God is with you in everything you do. Swear to me by God here and now that you will not break an agreement with me or with my children and descendants, as I have been loyal to you, so that you will be loyal to me and to the country where you are a resident alien. And Abraham said, I swear it. But Abraham complained to Abimelech because of the well that Abimelech's servants had seized. Abimelech replied, I don't know who did this thing. You didn't report anything to me, so I hadn't heard about it until today. Abraham took flocks and herds and gave them to Abimelech, and the two of them made a covenant. Abraham separated 7 ewe lambs from the flock, and Abimelech said to Abraham, Why have you separated these 7 ewe lambs? He replied, You are to accept the 7 ewe lambs from me, so that this act will serve as my witness that I dug this well. There before that place was called Beersheba, because it was there that the two of them swore an oath. After they had made a covenant at Beersheba, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, left and returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham lived as an alien in the land of the Philistines for many days. So there's the end of verse 22. I'm sorry, verse 21. Chapter 21. Holy
Chapter
cow.
21.
We'll get there.
It's like, wait a minute, you're in verse 33 of chapter 21. Wait a minute.
What's going on?
Yeah. So, I mean, really, see, it's interesting because the language of the Bible, I don't know, maybe you have a different perception on it, but, when I read this, I never really think of, like, armies and, like, I don't know, I don't see, like, hundreds or thousands of people and, like, an army standing there, right, with a commander, and it's like, we're about to attack. This is going to go down in bloodshed, right? I've always, I don't know, just in my mind's eye, I've always seen it as more of a conversation between a few guys. But I think it's good to see that they brought an army, right? They brought guys here to deal with this. So it's really good to see the the conflict resolution happen, right? And the oath made between these guys. And again, I just think to give a little context to the gravity and I guess the power that Abraham is collecting, right? When we hear about Abraham and his house, I think of family size of modern day, like 4, people, something like that. 6, maybe 10 is a large family.
Yeah.
But these, I mean, there are dozens and dozens of people, if not hundreds of people.
Well, think back to the conversation we had over Christmas. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
With John, and he said we were talking about the wise men.
Exodus.
We were talking about
the wise men. Yeah, you're right.
The Magi, and we were talking about what do we think they really looked like? And we think 3 men traveling through. Yeah. Keeping animosity and no, they were able to spot them, which is why they had to take an alternate route. So we really started thinking about that, and logistically thinking here, they probably had thousands upon thousands of people in a convoy with
they had
them.
A caravan.
And thinking about that's wild. But, we're just reading it as words on the page here, and until we really dig into that and actually think about it, there's an army here. It's not 3 people talking. Yeah. There's 3 people and an army behind them.
Yeah. So you really got to think about the consequences that would have happened if they would have stuck to their guns, if they would have been prideful and just immediately went to bloodshed. Yeah. But instead, they talk it out. Even him offering lambs as almost like a receipt. Right? So I dug this well. Yeah. Trying to resolve this without sending the men of their house to their death, right? 'Cause somebody's going to lose. Somebody's going to die.
Yeah. Now you see Beersheba, which is the word play between well of oath and well of 7. I like here the tamarisk tree too. This reminds me it draws a little bit of a parallel between the altars that Abraham built along the way in this tamarisk tree. Yeah. I think are similar in the way that he recognizes God's good gifts to him, including his son, who's going to carry his bloodline, which is the covenant that's been made to him. So he plants this tree. And then he worships the Lord as the everlasting God, which is, again, continuously in this recognition of, I think, perpetuity?
Propriety?
Propriety, yes. Okay. Perpetuity. That propriety of God's promises to Abraham. So you continuously see, which I really liked that parallel almost drawn, because you see, if we back up into Genesis, you see the altars that were built almost at these times of, like these chapters, these milestones,
big moments.
And here's another one where God again shows up for Abraham, and so he plants this tree in recognition and praises the Lord in that moment. Which I think again is just along those same lines of Abraham's taking a second, he's pausing, he's planting this tree, and he's rejoicing the Lord at this moment again where he stood for Abraham, and it's of things that have happen, but it's also for the things that are to come in his son Isaac. So
absolutely. You really do see Abraham, I don't know, like that day-to-day faith of planting trees, things like that. Also, something we didn't mention on the first half of chapter 21 was that Abraham circumcised his son, right? Keeping that covenant. So I don't know, really just, again, seeing how you can see through Abraham's actions and his life that he's devoted to God, right? Even though he's got mess-ups, even though he's got failures and fears, right? Especially like the deception that he does. But you can still see that he goes back to God, right? All the time. So there's chapter 21. Again, we're kind of getting into that, next week we'll be into 22 of that, the sacrifice of Isaac, and getting into that conversation and looking at that example of Abraham's faith. So, get into some good stuff. All right. We will see you next Sunday.